And I think we will say we're live now. I will wait just a couple seconds here for the YouTube channel to catch up with us. As you know, if you've watched these meetings before, we've got just about a 40-second delay between the Google Meets program that we use as our platform here and the YouTube channel that should be coming up shortly. So what we do is we wait until that delay has overcome, so that way we make sure we don't miss anything. Um, no editing piece anywhere in between, just a matter of waiting. And I see we're live now, so Dr. Swab, it's all yours.
All right. Thanks everyone for coming this evening. I'd like to call to order the Bradford Exempted Village Board of Education July 13th regular meeting. If we could stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Roll call, please.
Dr. Swab.
Here.
Mrs. Brewer.
Here.
Pastor Reindl.
Here.
Mr. Biesecker.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening for our next virtual meeting that's held during the state of emergency, which we recognize on our April 20th board meeting. The agenda tonight are regular business, with the exception of the addition of first reading of Neola policies, which will be at the last section of our meeting. Our next topic is adopting our agenda. Do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda that we have before us? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
Who was the first on that?
Louis, Professor Reindl, the first, and Maria for the second.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Dr. Swab.
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer.
Yes.
Pastor Reindl.
Yes.
Mr. Biesecker.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Next item is our minutes from the June 8th regular meeting and our June 29th special meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move. I'll second.
And Mr. Miller? Any discussion or questions regarding those? Hearing none, roll call for approval, please.
Dr. Swab.
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer.
Yes.
Pastor Reindl.
Yes.
Mr. Biesecker.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Next items are our administrative reports. So I'd like to turn the meeting over to Mr. Hurst, Superintendent.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I have two pieces that I'd like to basically explain or discuss here tonight. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm excited that our vestibule project is actually ahead of schedule right now. We had a report that we're about 3 days ahead of where the schedule is supposed to be. So our August 15th deadline of getting everything completed and intact should be fine, and we should be rolling the right way. Second piece that we want to discuss is a plan to restart our schools in the fall. We have worked collaboratively with the group in Darke County, along with the ESC and the health department, to come up with a collaborative plan that all the Darke County schools will follow, with modifications for each of the districts. The complete and final plan will be available through our social media platforms later this month, maybe as late as the first week of July, or I'm sorry, August. But the Darke County plan, I'm going to go through a little bit with you today. I will also say tomorrow morning, this is supposed to be in the Daily Advocate, and it will also be in the newspaper on Friday through the early bird. So you will see the complete plan announced as of tomorrow morning. I'd like to thank the Restart Committee, who's been working with us since early June. In fact, June 4th was our first meeting. So we've had a lot of time to discuss these things. But of course, we didn't get any real guidance from the state until we heard from Governor DeWine on, I think, the 2nd of July. So this is all fairly recent. So we will continue to implement safety protocols to the highest degree possible. We will work closely with the Darke County Health Department to promote safety in each of the school buildings. And of course, the health of our school students and staff is our number one concern. We hope to be transparent with all our stakeholders at the same level of risk, and will always be present with the children of the school district and employees as they occupy our school district facilities. We will have the most consistency as possible through the Darke County school districts, but we will also maintain some differences between school to school. We will try to, in our case, we will be able to maintain our original start date of August 26th with students. So there should be no problem there as far as starting our total calendar. I have a few pieces I need to attend to, I'm hearing. Okay. Daily self-monitoring. We're going to ask families to help us out with monitoring their students before they come to school each day to make sure there's no issues with high temperatures or any symptoms of the COVID disease or virus. Of course, we've got outlined here what happens if this happens, or if we do have any symptoms recognized from any of the students. We also are trying at this point to put together a plan to have temperatures taken as students enter the building or get on the bus each morning. So hopefully we've got a secondary piece that will be able to catch those potential issues before they come into the school district, to be able to help those students before they are around other students. Of course, we've got outlines here for food service and a couple other pieces here that outline social distancing. There's no self-service. We'll have individual condiments for everybody, and so on and so forth. The classroom occupancies, we're going to work to decrease the likelihood of infection with the hygiene, cleaning, and safety precautions. But being in a public place, it does have a certain level of risk that cannot be eliminated. Classroom occupancies will be determined based on each individual circumstance with the maximum amount of safety considerations possible. Now, this comes to the part that I'm sure a lot of people were looking for tonight. We are listening to Governor DeWine and his 6 pieces that he has outlined for the school, which are assessing symptoms, washing, sanitizing hands, cleaning and disinfecting the environment, practicing social distancing, developing face covering policies. Those pieces, and I'm sorry, there were 5, not 6. Those pieces are outlined in this policy, and as we get to the next policy specific to our building, we will have that board approved, and we'll be able to announce that to the public. But face coverings are recommended for all students, particularly in grades 3 through 12. School employees will be required to use face coverings when they are within 6 feet of students, unless the face coverings would significantly interfere with the learning process. These are the pieces that we will clarify specifically for our practice here in Bradford. As of right now, we have, I think, a very good plan put together for our elementary, where we're going to have roughly 15 students in each classroom. So hopefully that takes care of the dire need for the face coverings, because we will be able to spread them out. The junior high and high school are presenting a bigger obstacle. So we're still working with creative scheduling and doing a few things there to make sure that we can distance our students as much as possible through this process. So we will do what we can there. There will be a few places that we haven't worked out. That's obviously one of them. We also are working with our transportation coordinator and bus drivers to figure out how we can do things on the buses. And in between classes are the places that we're really having trouble distancing students. Not saying that we can't, we're still working on that plan. So please bear with us. So bottom line, we're working on sneeze guards right now, or shelters where if students are sitting in desks, we're pricing out pieces that would be able to separate everybody, so we would have less need for face coverings. Skip is working on some HEPA filters, if so to speak, for our HVAC units. We're obviously boosting up our cleaning supplies and hand sanitizer. We'll have hand sanitizer in every classroom, hallways, and offices. We'll have social distancing to the best of our possible means. And I think that is the big highlight summary for this plan. Again, it will be now published tomorrow morning in the Daily Advocate, and our complete plan, once it is finished with our committee and board approved, will be announced either later this week or early in August. With that, I will take questions from anybody that is with us. I think
looks like it's clear. I think your outline is good, and I think we'll be waiting then to be able to discuss our specific building needs for our facility.
Perfect. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you very much. Next, Chloe, for the AD's report.
Hello. There's not a whole lot of information, unfortunately, that I can give. I do have good news that we are going to be moving forward with the installation of our new scoreboards in the big gym. That should happen the final week of July, just before fall sports are scheduled to start August 1st. As of right now, we are being told to continue scheduling and finalizing scrimmages and things like that for August to basically plan for as normal of a fall season as possible. So fingers crossed, and I will be keeping everybody as informed as I am once I get more memos and emails from the state level. And that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Chloe?
Chloe, did you want to talk about ticket prices here?
That's fine. Whenever you'd like to talk about it.
Let's go ahead and hit that now, and that way you don't
Okay.
have to hang around for the entire meeting if you had other things.
Yeah, that's fine. So basically what Mr. Hurst and I have been talking about is upping some ticket prices, mainly the season tickets, the season passes for students and parents, and senior citizens will still be free if they live in district. I believe I sent that to Mr. Hurst last week. There's essentially just an outline of what we have been charging for season tickets as opposed to what a lot of other districts have been charging for season tickets. And the basis behind this is basically to just be able to bring more money into the athletic department, because that goes directly to our kids. That pays for officials, that pays for any extra things that the teams might need that they can't, the boosters or their account isn't able to fund. So do you have that pulled up by chance?
Yes, right now you have the chart pulled up with all the other schools on it that you gave me.
Okay. So let me pull that up as well so I can kind of look at it with you guys. So right now we are letting all in-season student athletes in free to games. So if you are a cross-country runner, you're able to get in free to every football game, volleyball game, etc. And then adult passes are $50 and family passes are $150. Now that, as it was worded, included everybody who lived in that home that was mom, dad, or student in the building. Senior citizens in district are free. And then what I did not put on there was out of district senior citizens. So let's say you have a grandmother that lives in Piqua but she comes to all your games, she could get a pass for $25 as well. I didn't have any last year that we sold. There wasn't anybody in that situation. So what I'm proposing is for next year, student passes, and that would be from beginning garden through 12, be $25. Adult passes be $75. There would be no family pass. Senior citizens in district are still free, and then the out-of-district senior citizens would have that option for a $25 pass as well. And if you kind of look at what other districts in the area are doing, what we are doing, what I am proposing is still quite a lot lower than a lot of the other districts, but I believe that it's going to fund the athletic department quite a bit more, and it's still a very fair price in my opinion.
I do have a question, Chloe.
Yeah.
If a parent buys a pass for fall sports and they do one game and then we cancel everything, are we going to refund their money?
Right, yeah. And I've been looking into that as well, and looking and checking with the other schools, like in our conference and in the area. And we've all kind of decided that that would be the practice we would take, you know, if fingers crossed it doesn't happen. But if that were to happen, we would refund everybody.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because we don't know. There's so much unknown that.
Right.
But I would be afraid people wouldn't buy the passes only because they're saying, well, we might not have any games, you know? So.
Right. Well, and these are good for the entire year. It's not just a fall season only or a winter season only. So they are good for the entire year. So if something were to happen and we miss like the first, this is just hypothetical, we missed the first 2 weeks of the fall season, but from that point on, everything runs as normal. This pass would be good for the rest of that season or the rest of that year as well.
Okay.
So, and they're available for purchase throughout the entire year. Obviously, it would make more sense financially to buy it before fall starts because you get more bang for your buck, but they are available. You know, if you have a winter athlete, you have a junior high and a high school basketball player, you can purchase one just for those 2 seasons, and you're still going to get your money's worth by not having to pay that $6 price at the door for high school and $4 at the door for junior high.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Chloe, is the $60 for senior citizens a typical age? I was a little bit surprised that it wasn't a couple of years higher than that.
Yes, typically it's 60. As I believe everybody else around here is 60. There might be a couple that is 65, but I believe about 90% of the districts in our area consider 60 as the senior citizen price.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Got a question?
Hey, Chloe, just for clarification, so it's a school year pass, not just a sports season pass?
Correct, yes.
Okay. All right, make sure people understood that, because that's a little different if you're just getting one for every season. The title season pass my first impression was it was for each individual sport season, or fall, winter, and spring.
Right. Right, yeah, no, so this is good for fall and winter. So essentially, if you think about the student price being $25, that you're already basic. If you go to every home football game, you've paid for after the first 3 football games. So,
Yeah.
but yes, it's good for the entire year. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? If none, we'll move to Mrs. Brewer. Do you have anything from the Upper Valley CC?
I did talk to Dr. Luce today, and she told me, I'm pulling up my message so I can she said they're still in the planning stages. They've met with the Miami County superintendents weekly. So, but that she has shared with the superintendents that they haven't had anything in stone yet, but her intention is to return to school 5 days a week with precautions. So they haven't got anything final either, but as soon as they do, I will share it with you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for Maria? If none, then Mrs. Server, do you have any updates for us this evening?
Yes, I do have a few things that I'd like to talk about. One of the things is that we successfully closed the books for the year, and I've provided those reports to you tonight. I do think at some point in time that we need to have a discussion because there are various items that we've talked about with some ideas of how we should operate in the future and how we should create some long-term plans. Some of that ties back to the loss of the levy that we will be having at the end of 2021 and how we may want to operate with that in the future. So I think it would behoove us to have a work session to try to talk about some of these things. The grants for last year were all successfully closed for the year. The one thing I'm going to do a little differently this year, and I'm in the process of working on them, is since everything is so uncertain, which is quite different than we've had in the past, I think I'm going to go ahead and implement permanent appropriations. I don't know that things are going to look any differently in September when we normally do the permanents than they are today. So I feel like we know what our budgets are going to be. We haven't had a lot of change in personnel, and I will allocate a lot more dollars to maintenance for the building, for safety, for various other items, which gets me into Mr. Dougherty did the grant for the CARES Act today, and we'll be approving that and working through whatever we need to get some implementation for this next year. And hopefully what our plans are is to take the differences in the way that we are going to be operating this next year and look at those additional costs and work through the FEMA grant, the Federal Emergency Management Act grant, and see if we can recoup some of those dollars that way and try to make this a safe environment for the children here at the district. And I will be working with some other items. I still intend to have, by the first of the year, everything we're doing online so we can get away from some of the forms. This is just a process that we're working through, and I hope that will be implemented by the time school starts. And with that, I conclude my report. Thank
you. Any questions from board members? If none, do you have a time frame when you'd like to do the financial work session? A month? Do you want to? Is that something for August, or what would be your time frame you'd like us to think about getting that arranged?
I think sometime within the next 2 months. I really feel like we're at the onset of looking at some capital improvements we need to do. We need to see if we can allocate some funding to that and trying to figure out what our next potential 5-year plan. There was a 5-year plan that we inherited when we came to the district, and most of that has come to fruition. So I would set my sights on the next few months, and that can be done in a couple of different ways. It could be done through a work session. If that is not desirable at this point, you might want to appoint a committee where we can work administratively and then come back to the board. But I do think it's important to work in that venue and try to move forward that way.
Good. So you're probably more like September, because August we might be a little busy with other things.
I think that September would be a good window.
So as a group, do you want to do a work session, and we would then kind of come up with a date and a time to do that, as opposed to delegating to a couple members?
I'm fine either way. If we want to put it in committee and then come back and report, or if everybody wants to be a part of it and have a work session, that is good too.
Scott,
it's okay with me.
Mike, do you have an opinion? Would you prefer to do it as a group or do it as?
I think Mike was having a little problem with his mic. Are you able to talk now, Mike?
Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Okay. And what was the question?
With the work session, either we would do it as the 5 board members, or we would assign that to 2 members, and they would work as a subcommittee. Would you prefer?
Either way, I think would be fine, but I think it would be better if we was all 5 together, or spacing, or however.
Correct. Louis, do you prefer the 5 or to delegate?
I'd prefer the 5 myself, but I'd be okay either way.
How do you feel about that, Scott? You're still muted. There you go.
Yeah, okay. Either way is fine with me. I think all 5 of us together would probably work best.
I agree. That sounds like a plan. Sometime in September or so, if the administration wants to look at dates and times, we can sort out something in September to meet and do a work session. Okay.
Okay, I'll try to have some preliminary information. Mr. Hurst and I will work together and try to give you an idea of what the discussion topics may be and plan for that work session in September.
Sounds great. Thank you very much. Our next item is public participation, and by policy it was advertised and only those with prior contact were to participate, and we had no requests. So next item is the financial report from the treasurer, which is consent calendar items 1 through 8. And superintendent recommends the following: the financial journal approval, the check register for June approval, a now and then certification of bills for Weibel, Wilson Health, West Central Juvenile Detention Center, U.S. Bank, Staples, and Pitney Bowes, approving the permanent appropriations for necessary amendment, approving transfer and advances, an advance from the general fund to the athletic department for $20,000, repaying of advance from restoration grant 587000 to the general fund for $1096. Also approving the return of the following scholarships by Edison in the name of Logan Harrison, $176.78 to be allocated to the Blessed Direction Scholarship Fund, $883.92 to be allocated to the Richard Harrison Memorial Scholarship Fund. The next item is recommending early implementation of the GASB 84 fund classification, recognizing the fund 200 student activity accounts from an agency fund to a special revenue fund. And next is approving donation of $200 from Covington Eagles to the After Prom. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion or question?
I got one question.
Okay.
On the money on the athletic department, is that now, are we even? Once we vote on this, are they in the back? Are we even? Are we donating this money to them, or how's that working?
Okay, the whole idea of this is that they are currently, I believe the number is around $1,356 to the good. They have a positive balance right now. I spoke with now Mrs. Thompson, and for some of her financial needs, that $1,356 wasn't going to go very far. So the $20,000 is just a loan to her until she can get everything moving and starting, and it was made enough to carry her through the year. So with the way it looked last year, she should be able to carry herself through the year doing that. So hopefully at the end of the year, that would be a payback if everything works right. So it's just temporary.
Instead of doing this every year, why don't we just give the $20,000 to her account, and then hopefully if everything works out right, she'll be able to stay even for the next 10 years or whatever.
If that is the board's desire, that's absolutely fine with me, because that would make my life a little easier. But I don't want to be presumptuous enough to decide that for you. If that's something that as a group you decide that you want to do and transfer into there and keep that as a nest egg for her to operate with, that would be fine. That's just a decision you can make, and we can do that at the next meeting if you so choose to do that.
How about, could you present us that information at the work session?
Yes, I'd be glad to.
Yeah, why don't we make that one of the topics to discuss?
Because for the last 2 or 3 years, we've been moving that $20,000 in and out. And I know that has to be a hassle for the treasurer.
Right. Yeah, so I think that's a reasonable thing to discuss.
Carla, could you clarify what number 7 is?
Number 7 is actually a change in the way they're viewing the 200 funds, the student activity accounts. They were always considered agency funds, which means the school board really doesn't own it, it just manages it. There's a line of thought, and we're doing this 1 year earlier than required by GASB 84. There's a line of thought that this really is a special revenue to the school district, and it really should be totally managed by the school district, and it's not someone else's funds. It's our funds, and we are the ones in charge of it. And it's almost as though that the law is saying that we're taking more ownership of the money because we are really over the students who are actively involved in these money-making projects.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call for approval.
Dr. Swab,
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer,
Yes.
Pastor Reindl,
Yes.
Mr. Biesecker,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
We have no old business this evening. New business items, the superintendent recommends the approval of the following consent items. Employment and resignations, 1-year substitute contract for aide, secretary, and cafeteria. Next is approving Donna Zertman, sign language interpreter, be added to the contract for Dark County ESC. Approving contract with Montgomery County ESC in the amount of $86,611.27. Approving the revision of Ann Seifring's contract to reflect Master Plus 15. With the availability of the ESSER grant dollars, purchased math curriculum books K through 5 for $11,968.44 for the 2020-2022 year, and $23,936.87 for the 2022-2026 year. Using the same, regarding the availability of the same grant, purchased English curriculum textbooks for grades 6 to 10 in the amount of $9,720.19 for the 2020-2022 school years, and $19,440.37 for the 2022-2026 school years. Approving the following technology repair fees, $50 for broken or damaged keyboards or screens, replacement cost for Chromebook or charger at the current market value, and all other repairs really based on the cost and labor. Next item is approving the golf team traveling out of state on August 7th to Highlands for the Blazer invite, and September 14th to the Highland Lakes for a match with National Trail. Recommending approval of the vestibule changes to eliminate the solid block barrier in the amount of $3,616.54. Recommendations for keeping breakfast and lunch rates the same as the previous year, and approving tuition reimbursement for Lisa Osborne. Recommending the Jumpstart program for incoming kindergartners contingent with health department approval for the week of July 27 to 30, and approving no more than 3 Bradford teachers at $20 an hour for 10 hours in the event that the program is approved. And whereas the above positions have been available to employees that had license, no employees with the proper qualifications were offered accepted the positions, and therefore then they were advertised to licensed individuals not employed in the district, and no such individuals meeting all the qualifications applied, offered, or accepted positions. It's resolved that the above non-licensed individuals be employed as noted. I have a motion to approve the items before us.
So moved.
I'll second.
Mr. Rendell and Mr. Miller. Any discussions or questions regarding the items that we are to approve?
I do have a question on number 8. I'm for the golf team plan in 10 places. My question is probably more to Mr. Hurst, has it been discussed on how they're going to get there, how they're coming back, or how, you know, if we're going to use the buses, or things on how we're going to use the buses and things like that? One's not too far off, August 7th.
We are still discussing that. Nothing has been finalized as of yet. There is an opportunity to have one of the coaches drive the van if licensing is done beforehand. If not, we will certainly send a bus over.
Isn't that just across the line, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like normal. We do that every year. You just kind of, all of a sudden you're in Indiana, and then you're right back across the line.
That's exactly right.
Right. It's a nice golf course, but it's just right across the line. Just right out in National Trail School District, what it is, just in the line. Or touches National Trail School District, really.
Any other questions or comments? Louis, did you have something? Your mic's muted.
Thought I had it unmuted. What is our contracting with Montgomery County consisting of?
That actually consists of our occupational therapy, and our physical therapy is the predominance of that cost. They also do a speech assessment for us. It is all medical related services that currently they are the biggest provider in the area, and most of the schools do use Montgomery County for those particular services. So that is, I could get you an exact breakdown. I don't have it here with me, but that does cover the gambit of what it's been paying. And I know that's been here for a number of years with that same contract with the same services.
I don't need a further breakdown, but is that something that's done in-house? Are they coming to our location for that?
Yes, they do come to our location for those things.
Vision.
Thank you.
That too. They do OT, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and vision would be the three items that we contract most from.
And we do have a legal responsibility to provide all those services. So if it's not Montgomery County, it has to be a similar agency to do that, because we have requirements in the IEPs that have to be met.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, roll call for approval.
Dr. Swab,
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer,
Yes.
Pastor Reindl,
Yes.
Mr. Biesecker,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
And next item, 14 and 15. 14 is approving gate admissions for athletics as set by the cross-county conference, along with the additional district set passes as attached. Varsity events, $6. Junior high events, $4. Family pass, which are Rabina, the individual pass of $75. The student pass of $25, and the senior 60+ pass. If lived in the districts, $25 if they live out of the district. And then next item 15 is approving the athletic handbook, which had no changes except for the ticket prices listed above. Do we have a motion to approve items 14 and 15?
I so move.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Biesecker. Any discussion or questions regarding those two items?
I have one question. I'm sorry. When we was on with Chloe, I had a little mic trouble, I guess. So my question is on the student pass, is that for all students? That's for student athletes and just regular students?
It's for everybody. Everybody beginning garden through.
Pardon? I didn't quite hear you.
Sorry, it's for everybody. So from beginning garden through 12th grade.
Okay.
So there's no, I think at one time wasn't there was like an exception if you were a student athlete in one sport, that season sports you could attend without charge for at the gate. So that would happen, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And my main concern too is next year we go to a new league, and some of the prices is going up. So are we going to have to change this again next year, or do you feel comfortable we'll be all right?
So that was the part I in doing this now, so that next year it's not such a huge hit to everything. Next year, the only change that will be made, we've already voted on ticket prices and everything for the new conference. Football will be $1 more than it is now. It'll be $7 to get a football game, but I think by changing the season pass prices now, that it won't affect us too much, you know, going into next year, $1 for football game. So all other varsity events will still be $6, and all junior high events will still be $4. The only change from this year to next year going to the Western Ohio Athletic Conference, football is $7.
And Chloe, correct me if I'm wrong, the passes, they're not set by the league, are they?
No, the passes are set. We do that ourselves.
Okay, that's what I thought so.
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call for approval.
Dr. Swab.
Yes, your mic is off, Carla. Your mic is off.
Oh, it shows it's gone. You can hear me now. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. It shows your mic is off. Yeah, there you go. Give it a try.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it'll work.
Dr. Swab.
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer.
Yes.
Pastor Reinberg.
Yes.
Mr. Biesecker.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Next item is item 16, which is the resolution for the Bradford staff and students to be able to substitute no more than 3 E-days or electronic days in place of calamity days, as long as the assignments meet the expectation, relevance, rigor, and timeliness as set by the administration and leadership team. These days may coincide with our remote learning plan. And then there's a long resolution which I won't bore you with reading. We have a motion to approve item 16, which is the 3 E-days.
So moved.
Thanks, Mr. Biesecker, and I will second. Any discussions or questions regarding this item?
When we did it last year, we never got a result back because that's when we went into school shutdown. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes, that is correct. The actual date of the release of the papers was the last day in school before we were shut down for COVID. So I'd like to say that we had a lot of response, but I don't have verification of that. Any principals want to chime in on that one?
The response that we had was it didn't meet what our standard was, but once again, that we would have probably had more turn in if we'd have been in school. There was no way for some of that paper stuff to be turned in, or if it got turned in late, just because that was, we handed out the E-Day on March 13th, which was the last day students were in the building.
Right. Wasn't a fair shot to really try it.
Right. Personally, I would rather just give it a 1-day try instead of trying the 3 days and see how it goes. Since we tried that and it didn't work, maybe this time we should give it just a 1 day and see how it does.
Any other discussion? I guess when I look at it, I'm not sure that till we get to that point. I mean, you guys are doing e-stuff now way different than we were. When we voted on this last year and approved the trial. You know, you guys have had to do electronic education for weeks. So it's probably got some of the bugs that we were kind of concerned about out of the system.
I would think, Scott, that we're probably a lot further along with it because of that. Like where we were last year, this time where we thought, okay, weren't sure how it was going to proceed and how it was going to work. I think, with what's transpired in the last 3 or 4 months, I think we've got a little bit better idea.
Right.
And I completely agree.
I would be in favor of leaving it, as we have, unless there's a strong urgency to it. If we want to amend this item.
Well, and here's one thing, and I'm not going to talk anybody out of that piece. The last sentence of that, these days may coincide with our learning plan, remote learning plan. There are so many pieces that are going together with this, along with every other plan that's in the state. If we are doing blizzard bags, the deadline for those is the end of July 31. If we do a remote learning plan, the original, well, then let me go back a little bit. There's a third piece called a blended learning plan that we've already submitted to the state saying we were going to participate in for COVID-related social distancing. The blended learning plan allows only online curriculum during that out-of-school experience. The newest piece, as part of a House Bill 164, which was approved in early July, said we have the opportunity for a remote learning plan that originally was due July 31st, but it was this great big comprehensive plan that you had to invite and collaborate with teachers and community members and so on and so forth. Well, they realized that July 31st was too fast of a deadline for such a plan, so they pushed that back to August. So now what we're doing with this plan is just safeguarding the contractual language we have out there, and making sure that those are an opportunity for blizzard bags. But realistically, my hope is that we can coincide these with the remote learning plan that will be submitted to the state for approval. Well, we approve it as a school, and then of course the board approves it, but then it gets submitted to the state as a non-approved plan that the state would look at and not respond to. But then basically when we were not in session, that would take effect. So we could use it also with blizzard bags in that situation.
So this is approval to make sure that we have all the options available to us as we move forward. I think there's a lot of unknown as we move forward. So I guess if we look at it in that context, where we're just keeping everything on the table that we can, that makes sense. Giving it 3 rather than a limited amount and even be not significant. If no other discussion, so roll call to approve the 3 days.
Dr. Swab,
Yes.
Brewer,
No.
Mr. Reindl,
Yes.
Mr. Biesecker,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
No.
Passes 3-2. 2 nays noted. Next item is the first reading of our Neola policies, which you have received by email, and the topics are listed on page 6. And Mr. Hurst, do you have anything that you want to add, or do we have any questions regarding this first review of the Neola policies, volume number 38?
Most everything here is a Neola update just to keep current with the changing policies and law. There are a few exceptions here that we did have choices, and realistically those related to graduation requirements and which path we wanted to head down with those to make sure our students had the best opportunities that were available to our kids. There was a question on AG 3120. I will get back to you on the selection of professional personnel later on with some more description, but all of these, including the AGs, will be able to be voted on next month at our August meeting with our second reading.
Does anyone have any questions or items they wish to discuss from the policy they reviewed?
Most of your changes are more so date than anything, because most of them policies is over 10 to 14 years old. I looked through them, and most of them had a date on them between 2005 and 2010. So most of them's policies has not been checked or looked at for 10 years.
Right. It's just a normal updating Neola does via the multiple policies we have.
Now, I will add to this, I talked to our Neola rep Thursday or Friday, late last week, and he explained with some of the Title IX documentation and the laws that are changing there, along with a few other things in the state right now, there will probably be another set of policies released as early as next month. It's usually a September release is the next one we see, but they said they're going to most likely release those early, and there may even be two parts to it. There may be an August release and an August Part B release, if you will, depending on which legislation passes. So more to come. Stay tuned.
All right, more fun for later. Any other comments or questions regarding the policies to discuss? Otherwise, we consider this our first review of these policies that are listed in the agenda. So our next item is motion to enter an executive session regarding item G1, which is listed on your agenda. I have a motion for executive session.
So moved.
Mrs. Brewer first, and I'll second. And roll call for executive session.
I'm sorry, I didn't get a second.
Mrs. Brewer and I seconded.
Thank you. Dr. Swab,
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer,
Yes.
Mr. Reiner,
Yes.
Mr. Reesick,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
There'll be no action taken after the executive session. We'll dismiss after it is completed. 7:23.
And I want to say, Dr. Schwab, I think this is going to catch up, but if it doesn't catch up, we can just redo the motion to adjourn. So I think you can go ahead.
Thank you, everyone, for participating this evening. And we're now at the end of our agenda. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Thank you, Marie. And thank you, Mr. Pastor. And roll call for approval.
Dr. Schwab,
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer,
Yes.
Pastor Reindl,
Yes.
Mr. Biesecker,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Thank you very much, everyone, this evening. You guys have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care of everything. Thank you.
Mike, I don't know what happened to that microphone.